Watch what happens the moment you stop caring about someone who's been ignoring you. Suddenly, your phone starts buzzing. They're liking your posts, commenting on your stories, asking mutual friends about you. The person who couldn't find time to respond to your messages is now desperately trying to get your attention. Or notice what happens when you finally give up on that job opportunity you'd been chasing for months. Within days, you get a call. They want to discuss terms. They're ready to move forward. The position you couldn't get when you wanted it becomes available the moment you stop wanting it. Here's the pattern that will disturb you once you see it everywhere. People only chase you when you detach. They only want you when you don't want them. They only pursue you when you stop pursuing them. The very moment you become emotionally unavailable is the moment you become irresistibly attractive. The instant you detach from the outcome is the instant the outcome begins pursuing you. This isn't coincidence. It's not timing. It's not luck. It's a fundamental law of human psychology that Friedrich Nietzsche spent his life understanding. We are biologically programmed to desire what we cannot have and to lose interest in what we can easily obtain. Nietzsche wrote, "The desire for a thing is heightened by its difficulty of attainment." But here's what makes this psychological truth so disturbing. It means that your genuine care, authentic interest, and emotional availability, the very things that should make you attractive, are actually the things that make you invisible. Your kindness repels them. Your availability bores them. Your genuine interest triggers their indifference. The moment you stop giving them what they claimed they wanted from you is the moment they realize they can't live without it. Let's explore why detachment is magnetic and why attachment is repulsive in the brutal calculus of human desire. Nietzsche understood that human beings are not rational creatures making logical decisions about who and what to pursue. We are biological machines running ancient software designed for survival, dominance, and reproduction. This ancient programming creates what he called the paradox of desire. We want what we can't have because our primitive brain interprets difficulty of attainment as value. When something is easily available, our unconscious mind categorizes it as low value. When something is scarce, elusive, or moving away from us, our unconscious mind categorizes it as high value and triggers pursuit behavior. Nietzsche wrote, "We love our desires more than the thing desired." Think about that. We love the chase more than the catch. We love the pursuit more than the possession. We love the fantasy of having something more than the reality of actually having it. This is why people lose interest the moment you become available to them. It's not that they don't like you. It's that their brain stops categorizing you as valuable once you're no longer scarce. Your availability signals low value. Your detachment signals high value. Your pursuit makes you common. Your indifference makes you precious. Let's examine how this dynamic manifests across different areas of life. Romantic relationships. The person who texts back immediately always makes time for you, and shows consistent interest becomes boring. The person who takes days to respond, seems busy with other priorities, and maintains some mystery becomes irresistible. Your eager availability kills their desire while your casual detachment inflames it. Professional opportunities. The job candidate who seems desperate for the position follows up constantly and appears to have no other options gets passed over. The candidate who seems selective about opportunities doesn't chase the hiring process and gives the impression they have choices becomes the most desirable hire. Social dynamics. The friend who's always available, never says no, and centers their life around others gets taken for granted. The friend who has boundaries, other priorities, and isn't always accessible becomes the person everyone wants to spend time with. Creative recognition. The artist who desperately seeks validation, promotes themselves aggressively, and appears hungry for attention struggles to find an audience. The artist who seems indifferent to public opinion, focused on their work, and unavailable for networking, suddenly becomes the person everyone wants to discover. Social status. The person who tries hard to fit in, seeks approval actively, and works to be included, gets ignored. The person who seems comfortable alone, uninterested in group dynamics, and selective about their social involvement becomes the person everyone wants to befriend. Nietzsche observed that in each of these scenarios, detachment creates what he called psychological scarcity, the perception that access to you is limited, valuable, and therefore worth pursuing. He wrote, "The individual has always had to struggle not to be overwhelmed by the tribe. When you're emotionally attached to outcomes, you become part of the tribe, predictable, available, and common. When you're detached from outcomes, you stand apart from the tribe, mysterious, valuable, and rare." But here's what makes this dynamic so psychologically complex. Genuine detachment is very different from performed detachment. People can sense the difference between authentic disinterest and strategic unavailability. Real detachment has a specific energy. It's calm, centered, and genuinely unbothered by outcomes. Fake detachment has a different energy. It's tense, calculated, and secretly desperate for the reaction it's trying to provoke. Nietzsche understood that true detachment comes from what he called amor fati, love of fate, or acceptance of whatever happens. When you're genuinely detached, you're not trying to make someone chase you. You're simply living your life without needing their validation, attention, or reciprocation. You're focused on your own path, your own growth, your own fulfillment. This authentic self-focus creates natural scarcity because you're not available to be anyone's constant source of attention, validation, or entertainment. But when you perform detachment as a strategy to make someone chase you, you're still emotionally attached to the outcome. You're still seeking their pursuit. You're just using different tactics to get it. Nietzsche wrote, "Become who you are." Real detachment happens when you become so focused on becoming who you are that you naturally detach from needing others to validate, pursue, or complete you. This creates what Nietzsche called self-generated value. Your worth comes from your own development, accomplishments, and self-respect, rather than from external validation. When your value is self-generated, you stop chasing others because you don't need them to feel valuable. And the moment you stop chasing others, they often start chasing you, not because you're playing games, but because you've become genuinely scarce. Nietzsche identified several psychological mechanisms that explain why detachment triggers pursuit. Threat response. When someone who is available suddenly becomes unavailable, it triggers our threat detection system. Our brain interprets their withdrawal as potential loss and activates pursuit behavior to prevent that loss. Value reassessment. When someone stops pursuing us, we unconsciously reassess their value. If they're no longer interested in us, maybe they have options we didn't know about. Maybe they're more valuable than we initially thought. Competition instinct. When someone detaches, it often signals that they might be focusing their attention elsewhere. This triggers our competitive instinct. We suddenly want to win them back from whatever or whoever is capturing their focus. Ego protection. When someone stops caring about our opinion or validation, it threatens our ego. We start pursuing them to restore our sense of importance and influence in their life. Scarcity psychology. When someone becomes emotionally unavailable, they become psychologically scarce. Our brain is wired to want what's scarce because scarcity typically indicates value. Mystery amplification. When someone detaches, they become mysterious again. We start wondering what they're thinking, feeling, or doing. Mystery creates intrigue, and intrigue creates desire. Nietzsche understood that these mechanisms operate below the level of conscious awareness. People don't consciously decide to chase what's unavailable. They simply feel compelled to pursue what's moving away from them. But he also recognized the dark implications of this psychological truth. It means that genuine care, authentic interest, and emotional availability, the foundations of healthy relationships, often repel the very people we want to attract. It means that playing hard to get works better than being genuinely interested. It means that emotional games are more effective than emotional honesty. This creates what Nietzsche called the tragedy of desire. The people who would love you best when you're available often can't appreciate you until you're not. Nietzsche wrote, "What does not destroy me makes me stronger." For people who understand this dynamic, the challenge becomes, how do you maintain your authentic self while navigating a world where detachment is magnetic and attachment is repulsive? Nietzsche's answer was to focus on becoming so complete within yourself that you naturally detach from needing others to complete you. Instead of strategically detaching to make people chase you, you develop yourself so thoroughly that you don't need to be chased to feel valuable. Instead of playing unavailable to seem more attractive, you become genuinely busy building a life that's fulfilling with or without other people's participation. Instead of withholding attention to create scarcity, you become so focused on your own growth that your attention naturally becomes selective and valuable. This authentic self-development creates what Nietzsche called natural magnetism. You attract people not because you're playing psychological games, but because you've become genuinely interesting, valuable, and scarce. When your life is full of meaningful pursuits, you're naturally less available for people who don't add value to that life. When your self-worth comes from your own accomplishments and growth, you're naturally less attached to others' validation or pursuit. When you're focused on becoming your best self, you're naturally more selective about who deserves access to your time and energy. But Nietzsche also warned about the shadow side of understanding this dynamic too well. Once you see how detachment triggers pursuit, it's tempting to use this knowledge manipulatively, to withdraw attention strategically, to create artificial scarcity, to play emotional games designed to make people chase you. Nietzsche called this the corruption of power, using psychological insights to manipulate others rather than to understand yourself. He believed that the highest use of this knowledge was not to control others' behavior, but to free yourself from the need for their pursuit. When you understand that people often want what they can't have, you can stop trying so hard to be wanted. You can focus on being someone worth wanting rather than someone desperate to be chased. When you recognize that availability often kills attraction, you can become more selective about your availability without becoming manipulative about it. When you see that detachment creates desire, you can work on becoming genuinely detached from outcomes rather than performing detachment to achieve specific outcomes. Nietzsche observed that people who master this balance often experience a paradoxical result. The less they need to be chased, the more they get chased. The less they care about being wanted, the more they become wanted. But by that point, being chased matters less because their sense of worth no longer depends on external pursuit. They've discovered what Nietzsche called the freedom of indifference, the liberation that comes from being genuinely unbothered by whether others choose to pursue them or not. This freedom is magnetic because it's rare. Most people are desperately attached to being wanted, chosen, pursued, or validated. Someone who genuinely doesn't need these things stands out as unusual and valuable. But Nietzsche also understood that reaching this level of genuine detachment requires significant psychological development. You have to heal your attachment wounds, develop your self-worth, build a fulfilling life, and learn to find meaning and satisfaction independent of others' choices. This work is much harder than learning to play hard to get or strategically withdraw attention, but it's also much more sustainable and authentic. When your detachment is real rather than performed, it doesn't require constant maintenance or manipulation. You're not trying to make people chase you. You're simply living your life in a way that naturally creates the psychological conditions that tend to inspire pursuit. Nietzsche wrote, "The higher we soar, the smaller we appear to those who cannot fly." When you develop yourself to the point of genuine detachment, you naturally become less accessible to people who are operating from neediness, desperation, or attachment. You don't have to play games to seem valuable. You become valuable through your own development and self-focus. You don't have to withdraw strategically. You withdraw naturally because you have better things to do than chase people who don't appreciate your availability. The people who chase you when you detach often reveal that they were taking your availability for granted when you were attached. Their sudden interest in you when you become unavailable shows that they're more attracted to scarcity than to you specifically. Understanding this can help you make better decisions about who deserves your continued attention and investment. The people worth your time will appreciate your availability when you offer it genuinely. The people who only want you when you're detached are revealing their own psychological limitations, not your lack of value. Nietzsche's final insight was that the goal isn't to make people chase you. It's to become someone whose natural way of being creates the conditions that inspire genuine appreciation rather than desperate pursuit. They only chase you when you detach, because most people are addicted to the drama of pursuit rather than capable of the depth of appreciation. Your job isn't to feed their addiction. Your job is to become so complete within yourself that whether they chase you or not becomes irrelevant to your sense of worth and satisfaction. When you reach that point, the chasing often happens anyway, but by then, you are wise enough to know the difference between someone who wants to catch you and someone who actually values what they would be catching. If this exploration of detachment and human desire resonates with you, subscribe for more insights into Nietzsche's understanding of human psychology and the path to authentic self-development. Share in the comments. Have you noticed how detachment seems to trigger pursuit in your own life? How do you balance being genuine with understanding these psychological dynamics? Remember, they only chase you when you detach because scarcity creates value. But the goal isn't to be scarce. It's to be valuable enough that your natural selectivity becomes a form of healthy detachment.